Good evening and welcome to our webinar tonight on student debt issues and our plan to obtain forgiveness for ourselves and for all of us as a group. Um, Before we get started, I want to just give you a note on accessibility and how we're going to talk and gather tonight. For the hard of hearing or deaf, there is closed captioning available. You can click on the CC icon at the bottom of your screen. Sometimes it's at the top. And the closed captioning function should be operating. If you could use the chat function tonight to alert us to any issues you have with the closed captioning or with any technical issues, we would appreciate that. But if you have any substantive questions, we ask that you use the Q&A function. There are student debt experts who are going to be manning that Q&A function and will be able to answer your questions that you may have throughout tonight. For the first part of the presentation here, the raise hand function will be turned off, but we expect to have time, maybe 15, 20 minutes or so for questions at the end, maybe 10, 15, 20. And we will use the raise hand function then if you'd like to ask questions audibly. Otherwise, we'll just answer them in the Q&A. Okay, so again, welcome. We're going to talk about our plan for managing our debt and obtaining forgiveness, both for us as individuals and as a group. And please use the chat for any technical or glitches and the Q&A function for any substantive questions that you may have. We have three folks who are going to be talking to you tonight. I am Eric Harrington. I'm a senior counsel in NEA's Office of General Counsel. And among other things, I handle student debt issues for NEA. And we're also joined by Lindsay Clark, and she is the Director of Partnerships of Savvy, which you're going to learn about tonight, which is one of our partners that is providing direct and individualized service to our members to help you navigate your student debt and to find the right kind of repayment and forgiveness programs for you. And we're also joined by Darby Boyd, who is an affiliate relations specialist with NEA member benefits, and she's also going to be talking about that individualized program. Okay, so where are we in student debt in here in early 2021? For most of you who have federally held student loans, I expect that your payments have been suspended since last spring, and that suspension is slated to continue until at least September 2021. As has been the case since the beginning of the suspension, that what we call the FFEL or other kind of bank-held federal loans have not been suspended, and as you probably know, federal student loan payments have not been suspended. I assume that if you, based on whether your payments have been suspended, it's a good indication of what kind of loans that you have. So while payments have been suspended, at least of the federally held loans, student debt has certainly not disappeared. NEA members who hold student debt have over $50,000 on average, and even more. No one can hear me? I've just been talking to myself.
They can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, and our members with student debt have over $50,000, and that's even more for our higher education members and for our members of color. And even in this context of suspended debt payments, canceling student debt is among our members' highest policy priorities. In a recent survey, only additional funding to reopen school buildings and COVID stimulus ranked higher. Now, as dire as this situation is, I think we should be mindful that it's not really a broken system. It works really, really well for some people. And in particular, it works really, really well for the banks and the servicers who service our loans. It's in many ways working as it's intended, but we want to make sure it works better and differently so that it serves students and not banks. As we think about and talk about and work on broader reforms, we at NEA know that educators want and need help now. We certainly want to be fighting for broader reform and broader debt cancellation, but we also have to figure out how to do the best we can right now. So we have a very sort of straightforward goal and that is to help our members rid ourselves of student debt and build an education system that works for all of us. So the main focus that we want to talk about tonight is how you can be part of our movement to cancel student debt through administrative action or through legislation, and also how you can take control and wrestle with your own debt so that you can be on a path to getting your own debt forgiven. And in order to end your student debt, there's really basically 3 different approaches. One is to pay off your student loans with interest. Another is to use the existing forgiveness programs, and we're going to talk about them tonight. And then the third is what I've kind of alluded to here, which is to get the federal government just to cancel the debt that is currently held. Now, paying off your student loans with interest is one way, but I assume that if you're joining us tonight, that hasn't necessarily happened for all of your loans yet, and there's good reasons why. It takes a long time. It costs a lot of money. It very frequently costs much more than the initial loans. And because of compounding interest, some folks are just unable to pay it off. The math just becomes too daunting and overwhelming. But like I said, NEA is here to help. We have launched a program to advocate for our members on student debt, and to work with, you're going to hear about it in more detail, with groups like Savvy to provide individualized support to you. And so in the last year, our team has worked with our members to obtain over $1 million of forgiven debt. We have pipelined even more of that to get it on a path toward forgiveness. Over 15,000 members have accessed individualized debt support. And one of the thrusts of tonight is I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to add yourself to that number. We have led political and legislative advocacy to get broader reform and cancellation, including the current suspension. And over 25,000 members have taken some form of action in the past year, and we want that to be even bigger. And a lot of our members are noticing. And that we hope that you feel the same way, that as Christina Cheney put it very, very well, it feels good to know that there are people out there fighting on this issue to make a difference for educators with debt. Okay, so forgiveness through existing programs. How would we go about forgiving your debt under current programs? There's really 3 big ones that are worth noting. The one that most of you are probably familiar with is the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. The second one is a teacher loan forgiveness, and the third is an income-driven repayment for 20 or 25 years. These are somewhat overlapping, but for almost all of you, the first 2 are going to be the ones that we're going to want to focus on. Public service loan forgiveness applies to everyone who works in public service work. What matters is who you work for, not what you do. If you work for an employer that is classified as a public service employer, you're eligible under that program for forgiveness. And I'm going to talk about the rules in a second. The teacher loan forgiveness is really kind of misnamed. It really applies to teachers who teach, just teachers, not educators more broadly, but teachers who teach at Title I schools. So it really should be called the Title I Teacher Loan Forgiveness Program. And so it's narrower in scope and narrower in its amount of forgiveness, but it takes less time to get to it. So the public service loan forgiveness. I'm going to have some details here, but the big thing that I want you to stay focused on with the public service loan forgiveness program is that its purpose was to encourage and reward public service. And the basic bargain that in 2007 Congress offered you was, if you have federal student loans and you commit 10 years to public service and you diligently pay those loans should be forgiven. That's the basic idea and the basic promise. Now, being Congress, they put a bunch of details in this that have undermined that core promise that was made. And so there are technical requirements that have really tripped people up, both because the requirements are kind of technical, but also people have been misled and told different things and been misinformed about the requirements of the forgiveness program. So in order to be eligible, you have to have the right kind of loan. You have to have a direct loan. You have to have the right servicer. Your loan has to be with Fed Loan. You have to be in the right repayment plan. You have to have an income-driven repayment plan. You have to work full-time for the right kind of employer. Almost all of our members are going to have this one covered, but you have to prove it over and over and over again by filling out a form. And finally, you have to make 120 on-time payments. They don't have to be consecutive. Now, for teacher loan forgiveness, you only have to teach low-income students for 5 years, but here you're not eligible for total forgiveness. You're only eligible for either 5,000 or 17,500, depending on the type of program that you teach in, and depending on the grade and the program that you teach in. These two programs can't be combined. You can take teacher loan forgiveness and then restart the clock. So you could do 5 years to get 5,000 or 17,500, and then restart the clock for 10 years on public service loan forgiveness, or you could just focus on public service loan forgiveness. So, confused yet? I am. I think I am just even talking about it. It's kind of purposely set up to be confusing. And this is one of the core problems with existing loan programs, is that when they're successful, and we have had success, that's one thing I really want to underline. There's been a lot of news about how few people have been successful in obtaining forgiveness under these programs. And it's true. A lot, very high percentages apply for forgiveness under these programs and are denied. But what I want to tell you is that it is doable, and we've done it. And Savvy's done it. We've done it. We've been able to help educators get across the finish line and get their debt forgiven. But like I said, it can be complicated, and these hyper-technical rules, they benefit the banks, but they often shut borrowers out. And then the servicers themselves, either through incompetence or malfeasance, actually often misdirect borrowers. So when we're faced with this problem, we've got these programs that really the two big ones that are designed to provide debt relief to educators. But for various reasons, they're failing to do that because you need hyper-technical support to actually make use of them. NEA Member Benefits partnered with an organization called Savvy to help members navigate current forgiveness programs. And because of this partnership, Savvy provides to our members a free online tool. And again, I don't know about you, but if someone tells me something free, I always like, it's not free really, it's being paid for. It's just being paid for indirectly through your dues. But that's why it's available to you as a member, because it's one of your benefits of membership. So Savvy provides the online tool that's free to you, that you've already paid for really, that manages members' student loans, determines eligibility for forgiveness programs, and manages your applications for those programs. But to date, basically about 5% of NEA members have used it. And we really want to drive that number up, because this is a great tool that's had a lot of success. We just need to have more using it so we can replicate that success over and over and over again. And there, I put a few of these together. We can go through these. There are many members who've had just fabulous experiences. Erica Dent, who worked with Savvy and got 5,000 forgiven under the teacher loan forgiveness program after she attended a webinar like this. Danny Ben, second grade teacher in Washington State, also got teacher loan forgiveness. Mary Kuchnetz in Pennsylvania, she used the public service loan forgiveness program to have all of her federal loans forgiven. And a lot of these, as you will see, are probably experiencing things like you've experienced, where you think you're eligible, you do everything you're supposed to do, and you kind of fight with the servicer, and there's payments that aren't credited, or this problem or that problem, and Savvy can work with you and bring this to the finish line. Last year, we were even able to help one member erase over $100,000 in student debt. I think this is one of the biggest that I'm aware of that's ever been forgiven under the public service loan forgiveness program. And the fellow's name is Sean Manis, and he is a music teacher in New Jersey. And he is just like he was very dogged. For years, he had been paying. He knew or thought he would be eligible. The servicer told him things that were incorrect. He had to do all these things to get the record straight. Well, finally, we decided to help him, and we were able to get all of his loans forgiven. And so I'm actually going to play this. If someone can give me a thumbs up, one of the presenters, make sure that the sound's going so you can hear from Sean directly.
It was a pleasure for me to work with the NEA. I'm very much indebted to your services. Definitely, this is my first contact that I've had with the national team, and I think you're doing a great job. I really appreciate this particular project that you had created, and I'm the first beneficiary apparently. So yeah, I'm very appreciative that you all decided to do this. I feel relieved. How else can I feel? I mean, I feel great about this, that I don't have to think about it. That number, $103,000, I still see it on the statement. And I was like, oh my God, that's a mortgage in of itself. So I'm so relieved that it's no longer there. And I feel like I'm able to start new adventures.
So Darby and Lindsay are going to talk some more about the specific individualized service that we can provide to members. But I also want you to know about, and I want you to be a part of and participate in our broader efforts to deal with this systematically. So we should, we're working with members to individually fight to take advantage of these programs, but at the same time, we're working to make sure to just wipe out a bunch of debt and then make these programs work better. So I want to let you know that we have already called on the new administration in Congress to immediately cancel $50,000 for everyone. And we believe that the Secretary of Education can do this with a stroke of a pen. We have called on, or we will soon be calling on the Secretary to cancel student debt for every public service worker who has worked in public service and paid federal loans for 10 years, regardless of payment plans, regardless of what kind of loan you have and all that stuff. This to us this was the promise of public service loan forgiveness. It is not the Byzantine technicalities. It is this core promise, and we want them to keep it. And we want all these reforms, and there are others, we want all these reforms to happen before federal student loan payments are resumed. There's a petition, I guess it's right here. Here it is. It's at my next slide. Please, someone can put that in the chat, or the Q&A or the chat. Please go to our student debt cancellation petition and add your name. It's important that we're able to demonstrate to the Secretary of Education and Congress that this has broad support among educators, and that it's time to cancel $50,000 and to cancel public service workers' debt. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Darby to talk about the individualized services that I have been alluding to. Darby, take it away.
Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate it. My name is Darby Boyd. I work for NEA Member Benefits. I'm an affiliate relations specialist, which is a fancy title for I'm in the field. I'm there to service members and help you guys with any of the questions that you have. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about how NEA Member Benefits and Savvy can help you navigate your student loan debt to really get you on the right path and the right forgiveness program, and to let you know which one you're eligible for and how to make that work out for you. So as we go to the next slide, Savvy Member Benefits, of course, has an important vision. We're there to help you make your lives better. So when we discussed student loan debt, we realized a lot of our members, as Eric told you, have on average $50,000 student loan debt. So we really wanted to find a way, a program that would help you guys navigate this forgiveness platform, these two programs that are really complicated, but do it in a way that is helpful for you. It helps you save money, shows you all your options, and is completely transparent, because we want to add value to your membership. We want you to have resources that help you in all aspects of your life, personal and professional. So as we move to the next slide, when we were really thinking about how we were going to do that, we worked with a company named Savvy. This is an NEA vetted tool. These are trusted people that give you really legitimate options, one-on-one service, and they were really there to advocate on behalf of you. They're there to help you with your loan servicers, which are going to be like your Navient, FedLoan, your Mohila, your Nelnet. Those are your loan service providers. They're there to help you with that process of trying to talk to them, figuring out where your payments are. The tool, the navigation tool, actually can calculate how much money you can save on a monthly basis. And then, of course, which forgiveness program is best for you, if it's public service loan forgiveness, teacher loan forgiveness. You also get a complete analysis at the end of this so that you can make the right decision for your family. Another great part about Savvy is that if you do go ahead and use their essential services, which we'll talk about here in a minute, they guarantee that your loan process is going to be 100% awesome. They work with you. They work with all your HR departments. They'll even do all this digital paperwork for you, which is excellent. So as we move on to the next slide, the impact that the Student Debt Navigators had so far has been significant. And we want to make sure that these numbers go up. But on average, our members who have utilized the tool can save an average of $108 a month. There has been $1 million in forgiveness achieved so far. 16,000 of your colleagues are utilizing this tool as we speak. Many of them are on track to have forgiveness happen soon, but hundreds of educators have already received forgiveness, whether that's through the Teacher Loan Forgiveness Program or the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And as we move on to the next slide, the thing about Savvy that we want you to know tonight is that as an NEA member, the first year that you use Savvy is free. So the navigation tool is already free. And then if you decide to use their essential services, which is where they digitally do all the application and or employment verification paperwork for you, that part of the service is free for the very first year. If you decide to utilize that digital essential services for the next year, it is a $29.95 yearly fee for our members. The Members Insurance Trust decided in January, though, that they wanted all NEA members to be able to utilize this tool the very first year so they could find out if they're on the right path for forgiveness or get on the right path for forgiveness. We wanted to make sure that you could use that and utilize the digital essential services for free. And I also want to let you know, like I said, the second year cost is $29.95 for the year for them to do that. So the next part, as we move to the next slide, I'm going to kind of give it over to Lindsay, but first, I wanted to let you know that as you are getting logged into our website, which is neamb.com/getNAV, I want you to know that if you have any trouble accessing this, so if you're trying to log in and check your eligibility and you're having some difficulty, please call our Member Advocacy Center at NEA Member Benefits, which is this 800 number, 800-637-4636. They will help you through that process, make sure that you can get into the Savvy tool and check all the eligibility for you. So if you have any difficulties, please call the 800 number and I will hand it over to Lindsay to actually show you the tool.
Great, thank you so much. All right, hopefully everyone can see and hear me. So I'm going to take you through the experience of using the Savvy tool, sort of step by step, slide by slide. I encourage you to do so with me as I go through it now, or maybe you just want to listen in and do so later on. But we're going to take you through it now. So
Lindsay, we can hear you but not see you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that. Hold on, let's see here. Okay, how about that now? Okay, great. Thanks, guys. So first off, everyone wants to go ahead and get started at neamb.com/getnavnea. I'm going to put that in the chat box so that everyone can click that link. That's where we're going to go to get started with the Debt Navigator tool. So again, that's neamb.com/getnavnea. And if we go on to the next page, we'll start to be introduced into the Savvy section of the tool. Great. So we start out by asking you pretty much two basic questions that we hope most borrowers would know the answer to off the top of their head. And that is their expected income for 2021 and their current federal student loan payment. This is sort of a way in for us to get an estimate to provide you with of how much savings we could potentially show you on that monthly payment. So in this case, in this scenario on the next slide, we're going to show you if your estimated income was $40,000 and let's say your monthly student loan payment was $377. Just using those two numbers alone, we could run a quick estimate and determine that this borrower could potentially lower that monthly payment down significantly and what that savings might look like on that next slide. Great. So it's going to show you potentially lowering it down to $177 a month, and it's going to give you the option to go ahead and click Let's Get Started. And so if you want to click that, you're going to be able to enter into the tool. And this is where it's going to really be able to collect the information that we need to be able to provide you with your options. And as my colleagues have said earlier, it sort of has the look and feel of almost like a TurboTax for your student loans. We're going to ask you questions around your tax filing status, your income, your employment. All of this is to help us identify the optimal repayment and forgiveness plan for you as a borrower. So on this tax filing screen, we're going to ask you questions around that tax filing status. You're going to want to keep an eye on that number in the top left-hand corner of your screen, that 121 a month. That's going to update in real time based on the information you're entering into the tool. And that's what's so great about it, is that it's completely personalized to you as a borrower. Going on to the next screen. Great, this is a look at the income section. So we're going to need to verify your adjusted gross income, or AGI, in order to determine what your payment could be on an income-driven repayment plan. Now, let's say you weren't sure where you could find that information or what that even was. On the next slide, on the right-hand side of every question is a little green question mark in a circle, and that's what we call a tooltip. And you can click that information, and it's going to expand for more context about the question being asked. So in this case, it's going to tell you where you can find your AGI, as well as provide a link to the IRS website that you can click on and download your tax transcript. So we try to make this whole process as easy as possible. Really want you to be able to do it even from your mobile phone. We don't have a mobile app, but you can access everything that you would need to through any internet browser on your mobile phone. Moving on to the next screen. Great, now this is where we're going to help verify some of your employment information, which is going to play a pivotal role in verifying your eligibility for some of these programs. So we have a database of all of the PSLF eligible employers in the country, as well as teacher loan forgiveness eligible schools and school districts. So when you start typing those in there, you're going to see them pop up in a drop-down menu. You'll be able to click those. From there, it's going to register within our system that those schools are eligible for these certain programs. We're going to ask you further questions such as, are you a highly qualified teacher? What subjects did you teach? This is all for us to be able to get a sense of what exactly you would be eligible for. And then we're going to be able to make our determination around the best plan for you. Moving on to the next screen. Great. So one of the aspects around this section is that we not only help you to certify your current employment, but also any previous employment as well. And for anyone who's had to deal with this paperwork in the past, you know what a big deal this is, because it might be easy to certify the employment that you have right now, but going back retroactively in time to previous employment that you had can get to feel like a full-time job. All of the paperwork, tracking down HRs from previous employments across state lines, it's a lot. And so we do that all for you at Savvy. And this is part of the benefit of those premium services. We take care of all of that digitally. And I'm going to show you later on what that exactly looks like. But this is where you can add in those previous employers so that we can do all the heavy lifting on our end in validating those employments. So if we go on to the next screen, at this point, you'd be prompted to create your free Savvy account. And this is just your first, last name, email, and password. This is because we're about to enter into the loan sync portion of the tool, and we're going to want you as a borrower to have be able to access that information securely and have your account set up. So again, this is just completely for free. Once you go and create that information on the next screen here, you will see that, yep, absolutely, that it is 100% free to be able to create that account and utilize the Savvy Premium Essential services this year at absolutely no cost. So you'll be able to click sign up there, and there's no obligations in the years going forward. So there's zero obligations to continue this, and you'll be able to move forward into the tool, into the loan sync portion of the process. And this is one of the neatest aspects of the technology itself. Most borrowers have between 5 to 6 different student loans on average, different disbursement dates, interest rates, things like that. If you knew all of that off the top of your head, I'd be very impressed. But what this loan sync allows you to do is identify your servicer. So let's say in this case, Navient, enter in those username and password credentials, and it's going to sync over all of that information in real time and read only. So it's not like we have access to that account. This is simply giving us a sort of a snapshot view into your servicer account. And we use the same technology as you would if you have a Venmo account. If you've ever used Venmo, Plaid is the syncing technology that we use to link those accounts so that we can get sort of that snapshot view of what's going on. And this is really important because for a lot of the eligibility around these programs, it comes down to technicalities like your loan type. And this is where we can identify those with, in better detail and be able to identify for you as a borrower where you might need to take corrective action as early as possible. So we sync our federal loans. We are also able to sync your private loans. And for anyone with private loans, it's an important part of your student loan picture. So we'll be able to have you sync those private loans and be able to get the same results just the same way. And then after you sync those loans, you're going to reach that plan results page. And this is really sort of the end result of all the efforts of entering in that information into the tool. We're going to be showing you things like your best monthly payment, what that monthly savings is going to be, and ultimately what that projected forgiveness could look like on any one of those plans. All right, so this is where we will have identified that sort of optimal repayment and forgiveness program for you. If this sounds good and you want to proceed at this point forward, this is where really the premium level of services starts to kick in. So we are going to be completing all of the paperwork on your behalf. That includes digitally pre-filling the applications for an income-driven repayment plan, as well as any of the forgiveness programs you might be pursuing, whether that's teacher loan forgiveness or public service loan forgiveness. So this means that you are going to get that in an email, be able to pull it open on your phone, as easy as e-signing that application very quickly. You won't need to do anything else. It's all reviewed by us. And what this really helps to do is really lower and actually, remove entirely the human error that ends up coming into the equation in so many of these applications. I can't tell you how many teachers I've talked to that have tried to submit paperwork and they have been denied or rejected for simple clerical errors. They mistyped something, they forgot to add on a page, whatever it may be. It's extremely frustrating. And anyone who's tried to complete this paperwork, I know can relate to that feeling. So we take that all out of there, I should say, remove any of that human error and are really committed to making it as easy as possible for you to get onto these programs. On the next screen, we'll show you a little bit of our DocuSign system. So this is into the nitty gritty of how this works. We actually are able to set these all up digitally, like I said, and not only help you fill them out, but we work with your employer and HR, not only your current employer, but previous employers and HRs. And why this is so important and powerful is that we're helping to make the process easy for not only you, but for them. And so when you try to go and track down this information and get these forms signed, it often feels like a full-time job because however long this is maybe taking you, however difficult it might be for you to track this down, we're going to take on that heavy lift. And so we set this all up, like I said, digitally through our system. We have the ability to make sure we are staying on top of that HR and make sure that they are signing it. They can sometimes take a while, and making sure that you're getting that form into your servicer quickly, accurately, efficiently, reducing the human error, but at the same time, making it a lot easier for you to achieve success and a successful outcome. Moving on to the next screen. This is a look at your dashboard as a Savvy user. And this is so important because really it's a look inside exactly what's going on as far as your timeline to forgiveness. We want to be very clear and transparent with you, the borrower, as to what's been submitted on your behalf, where you stand, what you can expect from these programs. And so we document that all here. So you can be able to see where you are in the application process, what's been submitted on your behalf already, what we might still need from you. You're also going to be able to do things like invite friends or family. So on the next slide, you're going to see how you can use that dashboard to invite your friends or family, as my colleagues have pointed out, to use the Savvy tool as well. If you have student debt, you know someone with student debt, and so it's a powerful resource for anyone in need. So you can invite those friends or family there. You can also see announcements about upcoming educational webinars, things just like this, for example, on the left-hand side of that dashboard. Going forward onto the next screen. Great. I wanted to mention all about our Savvy support network. And this is really one of the most compelling aspects of the technology and the tool itself. The ability to talk one-on-one with student loan experts about your situation and to get that help. We had a borrower at the very end of the last session earlier today who said, I just prefer to talk on the phone. Is there someone who can help walk me through this and provide that assistance over the phone? And we said, absolutely. And so this is exactly where we'd be able to do that. So whether it's via chat, whether it's via on the telephone or email, here's how you can get in touch with our support team, via any of these methods throughout the day. And that's, whatever is your preference, we're going to be able to work with you. It's a real person who's going to be able to sort of slow these things down, help answer your questions, and make sure that you are understanding, your best options to get to that final outcome that you deserve. So on the next slide, great. I'm going to pass it over to Darby, who's going to make one sort of final call to action for all of you around how you can utilize your affiliate rep specialists in your area. Darby, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Again, I'm an affiliate relations specialist, and there are several of us out in the field. I service members in North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Missouri, but I have colleagues all over. So if you're interested, I know this is a lot of information, so sometimes we want you to talk to your colleagues about utilizing the tool and letting them know that once you're through the tool, how awesome it was to see those plan analysis at the end. But if you would like one of us to come in and kind of talk a little bit more about this to some more of your members, you can always find out who your affiliate relations specialist is by clicking on this link, which is on our website. We just want to make sure that you guys have all the information, and you can contact us at any time too. We help you get in touch with Savvy if you need to, and of course, get in touch with our Member Advocacy Center if necessary. So I'm going to give it back over to Eric, who I think is going to finish it up for us.
Thanks, Darby. There's actually a few substantive questions that seem to be kind of somewhat consistent, and so I thought it might make sense to take a moment and try to capture some of these as people are asking them. And I was hoping, Lindsay, you might be interested in answering this question. There's been a lot of questions about the differences between public service loan forgiveness and teacher loan forgiveness. 5 years, 10 years. What about new educators? What forgiveness programs apply to them, et cetera?
Yeah, this is a big one and very important. And I think one of the reasons why I will say, without knowing the individual situations that we have out there, this is a perfect example of something that you can be able to chat with our experts at Savvy about, because it is important for you to know which program potentially is going to be the best for you to pursue. So I guess we'll start with sort of a general breakdown and difference between these two. I'll start with teacher loan forgiveness. Teacher loan forgiveness is a service, I think of it as a service-based forgiveness program, meaning we're looking at your service is the basis for your qualifications and not necessarily your payments, as we'll see with public service loan forgiveness, but that is the basis for your eligibility for that program. It is a 5-year determination. So basically, you need to work at a Title I school, and you're able to check that through the Savvy tool for 5 years, or more, in order to be eligible for anywhere between $5,000 to a maximum of $17,500, depending upon your qualifications. So it is going to differ depending upon your specific set of qualifications. And that is after 5 years. And Eric and company, feel free to jump in if I'm sort of missing any important things, but trying to keep it as general as possible. Now, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Okay. Now, these years do need to be consecutive. I just saw that question come in. They do need to be consecutive, okay? But the one thing I would note is, these schools go on and off the list all the time. So let's say, you had, you were working for a Title I school your first year, and then the next year it went off the list. You are actually grandfathered into the program in those subsequent years. So it's just that first year that you were on that list, that your school is on that list, and then you can count 5 years onwards from that. Many borrowers don't know that. So I want to make sure that you're clear on that. So that is teacher loan forgiveness. Now, public service loan forgiveness is forgiveness of the remainder of the entirety of your loan balance, whatever that may be, $10,000, $100,000, it doesn't matter, after you've made 120 qualifying payments. And I say qualifying because that's the devil's in the details here. These payments do not need to be made consecutively, so it's just 120 cumulatively, but there are certain qualifications that you need to have in order for those payments to count as qualifying. You need to work for a public service employer. It doesn't matter in which capacity. So all of you as educators, I can probably confidently say are eligible and work for a public service capacity at a non-for-profit 501c3 or for a government entity, which is at the federal, state, local, or tribal level. You also need to have a direct loan, and you need to be repaying that loan on an income-driven repayment plan. So that's where I like to call it, that one is a payment-based forgiveness program, where your payment and how you are making that payment is going to determine your eligibility for receiving forgiveness. So those are the sort of the two basic differences. What I like to think of is when I talk to teachers is first looking at how much student debt you have. And depending upon that, using that as sort of a, litmus as where you want to, or what's the best option for pursuing what type of forgiveness. If you've only got $10,000 in student loan debt, and you're going to be eligible under teacher loan forgiveness to have that entirely wiped away after 5 years, well, then you'd want to pursue teacher loan forgiveness. But if you've got $80,000 in student loan debt and you pursue teacher loan forgiveness to only have 10,000 of that wiped away, it might have been a better idea to pursue public service loan forgiveness, because in just 5 more years, you could have had the entirety of that loan balance wiped away. So it really is, it's worth having that conversation, because while you can pursue both programs, once you pursue, if you were to pursue teacher loan forgiveness for 5 years, you'd have to start over essentially in pursuing public service loan forgiveness. So I see a lot of teachers pursue that teacher loan forgiveness off the top because it's a little bit easier to get those qualifications and just shorter time period, but they're actually setting themselves back in retrospect from achieving the public service loan forgiveness. So again, having those conversations with the Savvy team is going to be really helpful, and your MB affiliate specialist as well are the people that can help to sort of guide you in the right direction there.
Thanks for that, Lindsay. I think the thing I would like to emphasize is what's great about this program is you don't have to become a student debt expert. You certainly can, if it's your thing. Get the consumer law books and dig into them and read every blog about student debt, like some of us who work in this space. But you really don't have to. But if you use the Savvy program, so you should use like these kind of talks as a way to like spot issues. If you work at a Title I school, you may be eligible, and you should certainly try to figure out if you're eligible for teacher loan forgiveness. And to Lindsay's point, it may or may not be the right call for you. And it'd be really helpful to talk to experts who deal with this all the time, and that's available to you. And so that's why we really want to encourage you to use it. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up on just our final little pieces of action, and then I do want to leave space for you to ask questions. So I think we can use the raise hand function if you would like to ask questions audibly. I have a couple more things to say, but if you want to queue up by raising a hand, and then we can start taking questions. Okay, the last things I want to mention is obviously the thing I just said, which is really take advantage of this. It's being covered. If there's any questions you have, this is the space to get it done. If you think you're close to forgiveness, they can help you get across the finish line. If you're just starting out in your career, it'll get you on track from day one. It is so much easier if you're on track right from the beginning than if you are later. If you're in the middle of your 10 years, it'll make sure that you're on track. Some of the worst conversations I've had, I know Lindsay can speak to this too, are teachers who thought they were on track and they get to year 8, 9, 10 and find out they're not. Some of you may be in that boat. It's just, it's so frustrating. So the other pieces of action we'd love for you to take is to join our community demanding for broader cancellation. I saw some people saying, well, you're fighting for cancellation for just 10 years. I want to be super clear. The very first ask we have is 50,000 everybody. So if you've been teaching 5 minutes and you have $50,000 to that, it'd be gone under what we are advocating for. We are also advocating for a complete forgiveness for educators or teachers or paraprofessionals, anybody in public service who have worked for 10 years, regardless of all these technicalities. We think that the core promise of the public service loan forgiveness program has not been kept, in part because of the technicalities, and we think that these technicalities should be put aside. That's on on the administration side, on the asking the government to change things. It is not how the program currently operates. We'd also love to hear your student debt story. You can go to nea.org/student debt. That houses all of our student debt updates. If you want to go there for student debt updates and news, you want to go for webinars, you want to go for links to NEA member benefits in the Navigator tool. You can find those all there. And then I'd invite you to participate in our Ask Me Anything on Twitter. You can use the hashtag NEA Cancels Student Debt. And after this webinar, we'll be answering questions on Twitter. So you can use hashtag NEA Cancels Student Debt, and your questions will be answered there if we don't get to them here. And then Darby talked about this earlier. Invite us. Well, we're happy. Darby's happy to come. Lindsay's happy to come to speak to your local or affiliate. Have PowerPoint, will travel. We're welcome to come and talk to people. And particularly, we really want people to use this tool.